What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to LIFM, and I'm here with PTP.
What's up, peoples?
And we're going to be doing a deck review of the Commander 2018 deck, Nature's Windgrace. So let's go over the main commander, Lord Windgrace himself. So he's 2 colorless and black, red, green for a Planeswalker with 5 loyalty. His first ability is a +2. You can discard a card, then draw a card. If a land card is discarded this way, you draw an additional card. What do you think about this first ability?
The first ability is very strong. In this deck, it's almost always 2 cards. And even when you're out of cards, you're still able to draw at least 1 card.
Yeah, having played this deck as the stock build, the first ability is really good. In fact, there was points where I didn't even want to use the ultimate because the first ability was so good, but we'll get to the ultimate in a second. The minus ability is -3 to return up to 2 target land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it does not return them tapped. Of course, if they enter the battlefield tapped, they enter the battlefield tapped. What do you think about the second ability?
Like I said, I think the first ability is so good. The second ability is good when you have landfall triggers. I mean, Avengers Zendikar is one of the times you think it would be a good use, but I think that it's a good ability in itself, and that it's just situational when you want to use it.
It also becomes a better ability because of the first ability. You're already pitching lands to the graveyard,
yeah.
right? Which makes that ability stronger. And the ultimate here, which is actually a really strong ultimate, as I said, when I was playing the deck, I didn't feel a need to use it. So -11, and you destroy up to 6 target non-land permanents, then create 6 2/2 green cat warrior creature tokens with Forest Walk. Now, this ability can hit Planeswalkers, which I think is one of the strong parts about it. What do you think about the ultimate?
Yeah, the ultimate's strong. I mean, it hits 6 permanents.
Non-land.
Yeah, non-land permanents, sorry. And it doesn't have to be exactly 6.
Mm-hmm.
And then you still get 6 cat tokens no matter how much permanents you hit.
I feel like the cat token is actually the most underwhelming part of the ability.
It's underwhelming, but I mean, 6 2/2 Forest Walks, they can they're very when you're destroying 6 permanents to get that utility and that board presence as a plus. I mean,
you're not wrong, because I would use this ability even if I wasn't getting the tokens anyways.
Of course.
I mean, the situations I was in, I didn't feel the need to use that ability, but yeah, I'm going to destroy the permanents.
But it's good to get that value because you are paying -11 loyalty. That's a big investment. So it's good to get that little extra value out of the investment.
And of course, all these Commander 2018 decks do have a Planeswalker you can use as a commander, so Lord Windgrace is no different. He can be your commander.
Well, I think a slept on part of Lord Windgrace is that he comes in for 5 with 5 loyalty, and then he can +2 right away, which is already strong. So it's a +2 that you're not using just to plus him. It's a +2 that's giving you advantage, and then you're putting off the 7. So even though he doesn't protect himself,
7's a big
ability for someone to just take out unless they have multiple creatures. And you have nothing.
That's true, especially at 5 cost in a deck that ramps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if you have 1 blocker, it's pretty easy to hold him down and not make him take major damage.
So out of the 4 decks, I think, or the 4 commanders, I think this one's my favorite one. What about you? Where does he rank as far as the 4 commander decks go?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's my favorite one. I think he has a lot of utility, and he lets you get to the fun stuff in the deck. And I think playing the decks is very enjoyable when you play his deck.
Yeah, because some of the other commanders feel very, very situational.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you get some hands where you feel like you're stranded, and this really helps you cycle through your cards. And it works. This works well with a lot of cards in the deck.
A lot of cards in the deck.
It doesn't often where you feel you have cards that don't synergize with him.
True. All right, so let's move on to the sub-commanders in this deck and get our thoughts on those as well. So first we'll go with Gyrus Waker of Corpse, and he is Jund and X for a legendary Hydra. So Gyrus Waker of Corpse enters the battlefield with the number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the amount of mana spent to cast it. And whenever he attacks, you may exile target creature card with lesser power from your graveyard. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that card, and that's tapped and attacking. Exile a token at end of combat. What do you think about this guy? As a card and as a commander.
I think he's okay. I like him more as a commander than as a card. I mean, I think he's built to be a commander with the getting the counters equal to the mana you cast, not X. So you get the 3 for the mana you spend right away. Then when he's a commander, you get the mana you spend for the commander tax as well. Every time you cast them, so you're not like you're with a lot of X generals. They feel like they become more and more prohibitive because you're spending more just to get them out.
You're getting less value
before you even get to the X. Whereas he doesn't lose that value from being. So he comes out and he's castable all the time. When this card came out, I was thinking of Mesa Ith because I think even you could use him to attack Mesa Ith into bad states and untap him out of combat. Because I think the one thing about him is I think people are going to want to block him, and they'll block him with everything they have.
True. Right?
So I think as a general, to get his ability and attack, and he has no evasion, there's a lot of stuff that's floating around with Death Touch and with stuff that are just you might not want to attack into.
So for me, I think you're right, and this guy's going to die a lot of times when he attacks, probably before he attacks, to be honest. But it's the second part of the ability, his ability, that is the selling point, but that's also the deal breaker for me. This deck, and we're going to go over the whole deck, it doesn't have what I feel like is a ton of creatures. It does have recursion, but with your own unit exiling those creatures, I don't feel like that's going in the direction that I want to be going in. So out of these 3 commanders, he's the weakest one to me. He's the one I'd be least likely to use.
Yeah, I think honestly, my interest in him is more. I'm kind of interested in how he works with the ability. Like I said, that he doesn't really have a commander tax, and how does that affect him? I'm interested to see how if people build around him, how that can I think that if that can be manipulated, maybe there's something more there, and that's why. That's what I'm really interested in.
That does change things. Once you build a deck around that commander, it would look like a completely different deck. It would be a little different.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's move on to my second favorite commander in this deck, Thantis the Warweaver, and he is Jund and 3 colorless for a spider. Vigilance in reach, so already my kind of card. All creatures attack each combat available, definitely my kind of card. And whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, you put a 1/1 counter on Thantis the Warweaver, and it's a 5/5. I like this card a lot. It's really fun. It's exactly the kind of card I like to play. Very aggressive, can get big, and just a fun card. What's your take on this guy?
Yeah, it's more what we need. I think we need more aggressive cards. More cards that open up board states. I think this card punishes passive creatures.
Yes.
And there's a lot of passive creatures in EDH. People play these creatures that are just there for their abilities.
And they just sit there.
And they sit there and they do nothing. So I think he does a good job of getting rid of them. And I think out of 5/5, he really shuts down flyers with reach. I mean, like, how much flyers are bigger than 6/6? I mean, there's a couple, right? But like,
there's not many.
There's not many, and like, there's always going to be a select few. But I think in general, that he shuts down a good portion of the flyers with only one creature attacking, and then as the more creatures attack, he just gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Vigilance is huge again because you can use them on both sides of the board.
Yep.
So I really like this card. It's a card I'm excited for. So.
And pro tip. You don't have to block. If the creature's at 8/8, you don't have to block that turn. You can wait till the next turn, right? So I like this guy a lot. And again, this guy you don't need to really completely build around this guy to use him.
No.
Right? You can just, out of the box, say, this is my commander. I'm going to wreck shit.
And I really like this commander for these colors. I mean, he fits like... You could build your own deck, whatever kind of deck you want to build.
Mm-hmm.
I think if it's a... He can really come in and be that generic commander that comes in. And,
that's what I'm saying. Like Jairus, I feel like you said, you have to build around him. You do not have to build around this guy at all. He'll just work. as a commander for Jund. Alright, so we're going to move on to the mythics that aren't commanders. So we're going to start off with Rampage and Balos. 6 for a 6/6 and has trample and landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may create a 4/4 green beast creature token. This is not a new card, it's an old card, but I think it fits perfectly with the theme of this deck. What do you think about them including this card?
You can't complain. Like I said, you're gonna lands come into play often. You can trigger this multiple times in one turn. So I think like landfall is just very strong in this deck.
And these tokens are 4/4s. They do not die to lightning bolt.
Yeah. I mean,
people play that card. People play that card at EDH. Alright, let's move on to Soul of Innistrad. 6 for a 6/6 again, and this is for a avatar with Death Touch. And it has 2 abilities. The first one is to pay 5 and return up to 3 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. The second ability is when he himself is in the graveyard, you pay 5 and exile him, and do the same thing. Personally, this guy doesn't feel like he belongs in this deck to me. He doesn't feel like he belongs in here at all. What's your take on this card?
I mean, I see why they put him in there. I don't. I agree. He doesn't fit the general feel. I guess they needed creatures, and he brings back your key creatures. And there are some very key creatures in the deck.
There are.
So I think that's kind of his purpose. He does it at a high cost. He pays 6, and you got to pay 5 again. So I think that I would want more. I want more of the. I think it's a fine card. I want more out of the mythic slot.
I feel like even to the green soul, I think he makes 3/3 beasts or something.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's better, but this deck makes a lot of tokens. Even if you look at just this slide we're on right now, both the other creatures make tokens. You know what I mean? And we'll go through the whole list obviously, but I don't know how many creatures this card's returning. I'm not going to complain too much. It's a mythic.
No, I think it's going to, honestly, because when it returns cards, it's going to probably hit valuable stuff like the Zendikar beside it and stuff like that. But I think this effect at the mythic slot, I was just hoping for other options. I think that's where it seems more underwhelming.
I was hoping for more of an enter the battlefield effect because I feel like a lot of times you're going to play this guy and he's just going to die and you're never going to use the ability.
You can pay it from the graveyard.
You can, unless someone Bazooka bugs you or when they kill him, they exile him.
There's always scenarios.
There's always
scenarios for any card.
Alright, in Avenger of Zendikar, I'm not really going to go over this card too much. This guy's a really good card, and he's a really, really good card in this deck. This whole deck's designed around lands, and this guy is the land god, basically.
This card is... If you get an early Zendikar, it's problems. In this deck, it's easy to swing the next turn with your plant tokens at 3 or 4.
Very easy.
That's conservative. That's not a well planned play. That's just I top deck Zendikar and I cracked a land and I played a land. It's very easy to get your tokens to that level. So I mean, in this deck, this is an MVP.
Yeah, I feel for me this is probably the 3rd strongest card in this deck. It's really, really good. Alright, so we're going to move on to some of the rares now. We'll start with Blood Tracker. It's black and 3 colorless for a 2/2 vampire wizard with flying. You can pay 1 black and 2 life to put a 1/1 counter on him. And then when he leaves the battlefield, which is key, not dies, you draw a card for each 1/1 counter on him. So now that we realize that it's leave the battlefield and not die, what do you think about him now?
I still think the delayed card draw. I'd rather get the card when I pay the mana and the life.
But now it's a lot harder for them to stop you from getting.
It's harder for them to stop you. I agree. Like I said, I would like to get when you're paying the investment of 2 life.
Mm-hmm.
I like to get and the black mana. I like to get more than the counter on it.
I agree with that. The way I look at it though, with the 2 life, I'm not looking at as much on the delayed card draw aspect as much as this is becoming a bigger flyer that can block stuff.
Yeah.
Immediately, that's what I'm looking at, right? And of course, the card draw is great. I wouldn't play it if it was just to put a 1/1 counter on him, but that's how I'm looking at him up front, and then from there, the second ability. But enough about that guy. He's next to, I feel like, the MVP of this deck as far as new cards go. Emissary of Grudges, 1 red and 5 colorless for a 6/5 flyer with haste. So just there alone, without reading any of the other stuff, it's Rorix.
Yeah, it isn't the most fun card in it.
That's Rorix, right? That is what do you call those? Pit Lord? Pit Fighters?
It's a better casting cost.
Right, this is more splashable.
There's no 3 red.
Yeah, you wouldn't play Rorix in a triple color deck.
No, but just why don't they put more abilities? Like, this is the kind of stuff that they need to do. This is perfect for a casual setting, like the choose an opponent.
This is a commander card, absolutely commander card.
It fits the whole feel of the game, and this card.
Let's go over the ability.
Also, yeah, we didn't even read the ability yet. I just get so excited.
Okay, so as Emissary of Grudges enters the battlefield, secretly choose an opponent. Reveal the player you choose. Choose new targets for target spell or ability if it's controlled by the chosen player, and if it targets your permanent you control, and you activate this ability only once. Now, when we were playing these decks, you tried to exile this guy, actually, I think, and give me a 1/1 spirit token or something. And I redirected it to Babin's creature. This card's really, really good. Anyways, now that we went over the ability, you can continue with what you were saying.
No, but yeah, it's like the ability to choose an opponent secret. It adds more tension to the game, and it's it kind of
it's like a sub game going on.
Extra layer dynamic kind of going on. Like, did he choose it? Kind of people. It's gonna make people hesitate maybe before they target you if they don't know. Especially if there's someone who has a lot of spells that target, they're gonna think I may be the guy they picked,
and sometimes they're going to guess wrong too, because most times they're going to choose someone who's playing colors that target a lot, but it's not always going to be that player.
Person. And it's a huge swing when it happens.
Huge swing, absolutely huge swing. The stronger the spell, the huger the swing.
And like you said, the body, he's already a problem offensively.
There's no drawback to that casting cost versus the body.
No, it's like the ability's almost free.
Yeah, exactly. You're paying 6 for a 6/5 flyer with haste. He's a better dragon than most dragons.
Yeah, this is a real fun card. I think we're going to see this in a lot of EDH games.
I think so too. Alright, so let's move on to Fever Storm. It's 2 colorless, red for an instant. When you cast a spell, copied for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game. You may choose new targets for the copies. And it's copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copies. What do you...
This is nonsense. We're written all over it. Someone's gonna find this shenanigans. Obviously, gonna happen with this card. I mean, it's fun. I was surprised. Honestly, I was surprised that they put that ability on copy target instant sorcery.
My only thing with this card is I thought it would cost 5 or 6.
Yeah,
that's the only thing.
Because there's some pretty strong spells out there.
In our play group, people play some pretty busted stuff.
There's some strong spells that could go off 4 or 5 times.
Yeah. I think I'm not going to dwell on that card too much.
It's fun, and Red needs cards like this, I think.
More copy instant.
Not more copy instants, but this card is...
Don't get me wrong, the power level on this card is fairly high.
Yeah, and it fits what it's trying to do. I mean, Red's going to be playing... a lot of those strong spells too, right? So
but really, you want to do something on a blue or black player. I feel like that's where you're going to get most of your value, because they're going to do something really ridiculous that they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, but of course. But I'm just saying, Red. What I'm saying is, Red needs more strength in its general color pie and commander.
Oh no, I agree to that. I'm just saying you're probably not going to be copying a bunch of red spells.
I don't think they make this card if it's like 2 blue and 2. And 2. Like, I don't think they make this card.
I hope they don't, because blue has enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Alright, let's move on to Charnel Horde Worm. This is not a new card either. It's 4 colorless and Jund for a 6/6 worm with trample, and whenever he deals damage to an opponent, you may return target card from your graveyard to your hand. So, key thing here is when he deals damage, not combat damage. Don't think it's relevant in this deck, but it could be if you added extra cards to the deck. I think this card's fine. It's not busted or anything, but it's 7 for a 6/6 trampler with a really good upside. What do you think of this guy?
Yeah, I think he's good. Not overwhelmed, nothing amazing, but
No, of course not. Especially being on this slide with Emissary.
Yeah, he's expensive, but I mean, when he hits, you get a value back.
Yeah, when he hits, you regrowth.
Yeah, so you can't complain about that.
All right, let's move on to the next set of rares. So this slide we have Reality Scramble. Is this a new card? I don't remember ever seeing this one before.
I'm not positive, but I think it's a new card.
So this is 2 colorless red for a sorcery, and you put target permanent you own on the bottom of your library. Then you reveal cards on the top of your library until you reveal a card that shares a card type with that permanent. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. The key thing on this card, it does have retrace, which works really well with the land deck. What are your thoughts on this card?
I think it's a very good card. Again, I think Red needs cards, and this is a good card. The retrace in this deck is going to be strong. I just wonder.
I played it 3 times in one turn in that game we played.
I just wonder how consistently you're going to hit positive nets in this deck.
Well, like we were talking about, I think this card becomes a lot better once you change this deck.
Yeah. Because
I did creatures and I got some crap.
Yeah.
I didn't get anything good from it. Right? But I knew
in a more focused deck, it's a different story.
You had some Garrick here or a Sorin or something.
Yeah.
Not Sorin.
But it's a strong card.
It's a strong card. Yeah. Alright, move on to Crash of Rhino Beetles. It is 4 colorless in the green for a 5/5 trampler. And he gets +10/+10 as long as you have 10 or more lands, which is a lot at times in this deck.
This is a 15/15 trampler.
Yes, this is a 5-mana 15/15 trampler a lot of times. Has no protection, so he dies to a lot of stuff, but he just needs to not die to a lot of stuff once or twice to be a problem. Right?
This should say, like, play target removal spell.
That's basically what it is.
You're not taking 15.
They have to kill it. You're not blocking it either.
If you're blocking, you're probably losing your whole board trying to trade.
Even if you have a 6/6 Death Touch, you're taking 9 to kill it. Right? This card's fine to me in this deck. It fits perfectly fine in this deck. And it's only 1 colored mana, which makes it perfect for a triple color deck.
It's perfect for this deck. Splashable.
Alright, so Turn Timber Sower is 2 colorless in the green for a 3/3. Didn't realize it was a 3/3 before, so that's pretty good.
The efficiency is good.
Yeah, and it's an elf druid, so whenever one or more land cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, create a 0/1 plant creature token. And then you can pay 1 green and sacrifice 3 creatures to return target land card from your graveyard to your hand. What do you think about this guy?
I think he's really good. I don't think it's going to get exploited in this deck, but I think down the line he's going to end up in some other decks that
can use him.
I mean, like, you're going to get 0/1s, and you're going to get tokens from him.
And they are plants, so something like Avenger could grow them.
Yeah.
Right? But you're going to be
discarding.
How much
land you want? You like with this guy, you really want like lands that are really good that come back, right?
Yes, but also just if your commander is in play as a planeswalker, you're trying to pitch lands to draw extra card.
You're drawing extra.
And you're just making tokens that way, right? And you're pitching lands there. You can sack 3 of these plant tokens and get a land back.
No, he's a good card. No, I just think someone's gonna find a deck that fits him even better.
I agree. Or even just modifying this deck to make him fit a bit better in there. All right, let's move on to next.
Yeah, and maybe it comes back down to the lands they put in this deck as well too. Like,
there's some pretty busted lands out there.
Yeah, but I think there are some good lands. But we'll get to the lands later.
Nestin Dragon is 3 colorless, red for a 5/4 flyer. Already a decent body for me in red. And it has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 0/2 red dragon egg creature token with Defender. And when this creature dies, the egg doesn't fly. Makes sense. Eggs don't fly. Okay. When this creature dies, create a 2/2 red dragon creature token with flying and fire breathing. I didn't notice that eggs don't fly, but eggs shouldn't fly.
Why would eggs don't fly?
It's because of dragon, I was just thinking. But anyways, I think this is a pretty good card. The body to mana cost ratio is pretty good as is. It's pretty solid in my opinion. and you're going to be getting tokens just for doing what you're doing anyways, which is playing lands.
You got a sack outlet, like even Grim Backwoods that's in this deck.
It's definitely in this deck.
Like, you're just getting a value city on playing this guy.
And keep in mind that the tokens, once they die and become 2/2s, they have fire breathing.
Yeah.
Right? That means their power being 2 is not that relevant anymore.
This is a very, very good card.
So this deck makes a lot of tokens.
It does. I think actually.
This is like the 5th card that makes tokens.
As we go through it, you definitely kind of realize there was that.
I didn't see a lot of these cards when we were playtesting. Alright, let's move on. On that slide pretty long. Windgrace's Judgment is 3 colorless and a black and a green for instant. For any number of opponents, destroy target non-land permanent that player controls. Love this card. Plain, simple, fair casting cost in my opinion, and the more players are in the game, the stronger it is.
Just glad this is an instant. Like I said, casting cost is fair.
They screw green a lot, but I think because black's on there, they gave it instant. Because the only colors that don't usually get screwed are black and blue.
Yeah.
So I think it's a pretty solid card. Nothing busted about this card, but it's pretty solid.
But I think when we start to get into like multiplayer games, we really see it shine.
Yeah, and a card like this is really fun in that star pattern that we do, where not everyone is your opponent. So there's a lot more
interesting interaction.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna move on to someone that did a lot of work in our playtesting. Zancha, Sleeper Agent, is 3 for a 5/5. I love this card. I feel like this could be a really good commander.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting commander. Fun card. Like I said, more fun cards.
A lot of politics.
Yeah, definitely politics. A little bit of salt and...
A lot of salt, to be honest.
Okay.
So anyways, as she enters the battlefield, an opponent of your choice gains control of her. She attacks each combat if able and can't attack its owner or planeswalkers its owner controls. So you're safe. It has to attack every turn and you're safe. Right? Now, pay 3 colorless and whoever controls her loses 2 life and you draw a card. Any player may play this ability. That part right there. So good for politics.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on this card?
So good for politics. Like, when you sleep on 2, it comes out for 3. Chances are the person who gets it is going to attack someone who can't deal with it. So you're making another of your opponents take 5.
Yeah, 5 at 3 is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then or lose a creature chump blocking, and then everyone's going to want to draw a card, so the person who gets this is going to take a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm. True. I like this card a lot. I think this is a really, really good card. Next we have Moonlight Bargain, 5 mana instant. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. For each card, put that card into your graveyard unless you pay 2 life, then put the rest into your hand. I'm not going to spend too much time on this card. It's fine. You don't mind putting certain cards in your graveyard in this deck, especially if they're lands. So I guess it could work that way, or you could just pay some life and get some cards.
Yeah, Moonlight Bargain is a fine card. I've played it before.
Next card is Whiptongue Hydra. It's 5 colorless and the green for a 4/4 Lizard Hydra with reach. Is it Destroying a Dragon? What is that?
The art is cool.
That can't be a dragon. It must be something smaller. It is a Lizard Hydra though, so maybe.
It's got wings.
Yeah. Anyways, when it enters the battlefield, destroy all creatures with flying, and you put a 1/1 counter on Whiptongue Hydra for each creature destroyed this way. I think it's okay. We do have a decent amount of flyers in this deck, though. Of course, you control when you play this card. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this?
Like I said, yeah, you control when you play it. So if you play this at the right time, it can really swing up the board state, switch up the board state. So, and you don't have too many creatures at the same time. So I think it's definitely possible to play this at the right time. And it's once again splashable. And it's going to get bigger, so I think it's okay.
Let's move on. Chain Reaction, 2 colorless, red. Chain Reaction deals X damage to each creature, where X number of creatures in the battlefield. I mean, it's a board wipe. And do you have anything you want to add to that one?
I like Chain Reaction. We'll leave it at that.
Okay. Flame Blast Dragon, another oldie but goodie. 4 colorless red for another flyer. 5/5 flyer. When he attacks, you may pay X and a red. If you do, you get to fireball a target. Solid card.
In this deck, the fireballs are huge. They're ridiculous.
You do have a lot of lands, especially with next to cards like Badoka Gardener, which helps you.
You can't when he attacks, like, you're fireballing for if you want to spend all your mana. He over 10 easy.
I just think he's not going to get to attack very often, but you're not wrong. If he does get to attack, something's probably dying.
If, whens, or maybes, right?
Yeah. Alright, next card is Badoka Gardener. This is an oldie but a goodie, and a really goodie in this deck. I put maybe 5 lands into play with this guy. I didn't even want him to transform, to be honest with you, when we were playtesting. So it's 2 for a 2/1, and you may tap him and put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. If you control 10 or more lands, you flip him. And when you flip him, you can pay 6 to create an XX green elemental creature token, where X is a number of lands you control. Thoughts?
It fits the deck perfectly. Super strong.
Yes. Moving on to Ruinous Path, it's just a really good removal spell. Especially if you're facing the other Planeswalker commanders, it's an even better removal spell.
Okay, just in general, more cards need to say Planeswalker. Especially ones that destroy things and exile things.
I agree.
We need to have a petition. A lot of these cards they forget to write Planeswalker on them.
And Planeswalkers are becoming way more rampant. Especially now that they can be commanders.
Yes, especially
Nicol Bolas, I'm looking at you and your bullshit. Anyways, Ruinous Path, really good removal spell. Alright, next we have Moldgraph Monstrosity. It's 4 and triple green, which actually now I'm thinking about is a lot of green for a triple color deck.
Yeah.
But I guess green is the color you're going to have the most in here. Anyways, it is for a 8/8 insect with trample. And when he dies, you exile him, then return 2 creature cards at random from your graveyard to the battlefield. Thoughts?
You said the 3 green
seems steep.
Is a factor with this card. It's 100% a factor. It's a good card because, like I said, the random is not as much. We don't have that many creatures that you probably hitting something decent.
And there's also 7 for 8/8 trample.
Yeah, the body is, you can't complain about that.
Yeah,
but I think it's okay.
Scoop Mob. I mean, it's Scoop Mob. It's gonna be big in this deck all the time. Decimate. It's pretty solid. Destroy target artifact, creature, enchantment, and land.
I played this once and it was huge.
Yeah. Alright, so we have Centaur Vine Crusher. It's 3 and a green for a 1/1 plant Centaur. Has trample. And Centaur Vine Crusher enters the battlefield with the number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the number of land cards in all graveyards. Usually it's going to be dependent on your graveyard, obviously, since you're going to be putting a lot in yours. And whenever a land card is put into a graveyard from anywhere, you may pay green. If you do, return him from your graveyard to your hand. So, he's going to come back a lot.
He's coming back a lot. Yeah, and he's going to be big.
Yeah. I like this card.
And he has trample. That's what makes the card. It would be bad if he didn't have trample.
He has some
That's
form of
what breaks
evasion
the card. It's not even, That's what trample makes the card. He comes back all the time. He's going to be big. He's going to have to be dealt with.
Yeah, not a bad card. Not a bad card. Pretty solid, actually, in this deck. Alright, moving on. Almost done with the rares now. Lavalanche is Jundin X, and it deals X damage to target player or planeswalker. There you go, man. It says planeswalker. And each creature that player or planeswalker's controller controls. So this is one of those, I'm going to hit you in everything you've got.
I got blown up with this.
Yeah.
They definitely said planeswalker. Took out my planeswalker, took out my board.
Yeah, that's rough.
I didn't have much.
It's a strong card.
Yeah.
It's a pretty strong card. You can see from the art that shit didn't go well for whoever took it. So next we have Rubble Hulk, which is not a new card either. It's 4 colorless, red-green for elemental. And its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. And probably the best part in this card is the second ability, which is Blood Rush. For 3, you can discard him and target attacking creature gets +X/+X until end of turn where X is the number of lands you control. You took 26 from Emissary when we were playing?
Yeah, a big one.
Yeah, this card is so good in this deck. And this is one of the cards you actually want to return with one of those cards that return creatures.
Yeah.
Right? You Blood Rush and then you get a giant creature in play. So I think this is a pretty solid card.
Yeah, that's a good card. Like, I like it for the Blood Rush. It's big and gets stuck in your hand early, but when you a well timed Rumble Hulk is very effective.
It's gonna win games a lot of times with the Blood Rush.
Yeah, in this deck for sure.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna move on to what I think is probably the strongest card in this deck. It's Worm Harvest, and it's 2 and then triple hybrid mana black green, and you create a 1/1 black and green worm creature token for each land card in your graveyard, and it has retrace. So each time you retrace this card, you're making it stronger.
It just gets
Right? Each time you cast it from your graveyard for retrace, you create another token.
It just gets harder and harder to deal with.
Yeah, this card, it's a problem, right? It was a problem when it came out, but in this deck, it actually is really a problem. I think the power level on this card is slightly higher than Avenger in this deck, but that's my personal opinion. What are your thoughts on this card?
Yeah, like I said, it fits the deck perfectly in the fact that you can just consistently retrace this card. And that's why I agree. Like in the deck, it's better than Avenger just because the tokens add up.
You can only wipe the board so many times,
Yeah,
and even if they're
exactly.
1/1s, if you're making 6 or more 1/1s after a board wipe, it starts to become a problem.
If you're making 6 and the next time it's 7.
Exactly.
And the problem with this is this card literally needs to be gotten rid of because it's just gonna snowball into.
It's a huge enabler. Right? There's other cards in your deck that want lands in your graveyard too. It's enabling all this stuff. Right? Your commander can put those lands into play. Like you're not losing out.
I think it speaks for itself. I think people can see how to use this card in this deck.
Alright,
They
let's
don't need
move
us
on.
for that.
Gaze of Granite is X, black, black, green. Destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost X or less. This is probably the only real board wipe in this deck. Lavalanche is pretty good, but this is really getting everything.
It hits everything. Planeswalkers.
Artifacts,
anything
enchantments.
Artifacts, enchantments.
Yeah, Lavalanche doesn't hit
A
those.
lot of the annoying stuff this will hit.
Yeah, I don't think you need to really say much about this besides it's a board wipe.
Exactly.
It's a O-Stone type board wipe. Alright, and now for the final 2 rares, we have Grim Backwoods, which you did mention earlier, especially with like those dragon tokens and stuff like that. And Seer Sundial, obviously you're going to be hitting landfall on this card a lot.
Seer Sundial's real good in this deck. You're just drawing cards. Just drawing cards. Grim Backwoods, a good card. I would like to see some more rare lands in this deck, being the land deck.
Mhm.
Honestly, I agree with you. There are some very good uncommon lands in this deck, and they did a good job with that. I would like to see some more lands. I would have liked. Like I said, it's hard to get picky, and they can only put so much value in the deck.
Mhm.
But I just think, being the land deck, I think they could have maybe given us something interesting as at the rare land spot. Maybe new, even if not new, they could have found something old that's interesting that fit well.
I do think a lot of the uncommon lands are really good, but I can't really disagree with what you're saying. I mean, we got one rare land
Yeah,
in a land
in
deck.
the land deck.
Yeah.
It's just coming from your personal expectations.
Yeah.
I just felt that was a little underwhelming. You know what I mean? And I agree with you. There are very good uncommons that we'll get to, but I just, from a land deck, I wanted more than one rare land.
I can't argue with that. It is a land deck, after all.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's move on to the uncommons now. And we'll start off with all these loyal people. So we'll start off with Loyal Apprentice, which is a colorless in red for a 2/1 human artificer with haste. And he has Lieutenant. So the Lieutenant ability only triggers if your commander is in play. So at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control your commander, you create a 1/1 colorless stop or artifact creature token with flying, and that token gains haste until end of turn. I think 2 things. The haste on the token is pretty good, but I think the fact that the token has flying is especially good. You don't need to attack with that token because it has haste. You can save that for a block
No, you
hit,
can save it.
right? So I think that the fact that it's making flying tokens is pretty good.
No, it's a good card. It comes out cheap, and it works with your commander. So I think that's the best part of this cycle of lieutenants is they all come out at a relatively decent cost. I mean, I think the Loyal Guardian, which is next, is the most expensive one.
And the other thing too about the lieutenants is, if this guy's already out because he comes out early and then you play your commander, you still get the trigger because it's not at the beginning of your upkeep.
Yeah, no.
It's at the beginning of combat. So on turn 5 you can get a Thopter.
No, I don't think this card's bad. I think it's a good card.
I'm not saying you think it's bad. I think
in general I like the lieutenant ability. That's one thing I'm kind of I like the flavor of it, and it's a new dimension where people kind of have to. The card just gets massively better when your commander's in play.
Massively better. All right, let's go with Loyal Guardian here. It's 4 colorless in the green for a 4/4 Trampler. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control your commander, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. I mean, this card can be good in this deck because you create so many tokens, but I also think this is one of the weaker ones. Costs a lot more, and sometimes you're not going to have those tokens. Like when I was playing, I did not have a bunch of creatures in play when I was playing the deck. But I probably just a bad player and I didn't draw any of them.
This might be one of the weaker ones in this deck, but this card is like super strong. Like imagine you put this in Animar, it's busted. I'm just thinking like this is retarded.
Well, it should be busted in this deck. Look how many creatures we saw that made tokens. I just didn't draw any of those things. You know? Retreat to Hagra is a 3-mana enchantment with landfall, and you get to choose one of 2 abilities. Target creature gets +1/+0 and death touch until end of turn, or each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. It seems fine. It's not a bad card, but it's not a great card either. It could be. You could have a turn where you put 4 lands into play or something, and then that's a lot of life.
I gotta see how this plays out. I'm not sure. It seems like...
It seems okay.
Yeah, I mean, but then if you could stack it in a way that it's really strong, because each opponent, right, hits all your opponents, you gain life.
Mm-hmm. Well, really, I feel, honestly, the first ability sometimes is going to be... They're not going to want to block that creature, depending on the creature. It might not be worth it.
Do you think it would have been too strong if all your creatures got 1/0 death touch?
Yes. I think it would have been too strong.
That's too strong? Yeah, okay.
Especially if you're attacking with 10 tokens.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would probably cost 5 and be a rare or something like that. Alright, let's move on to Loyal Subordinate.
It would definitely be a rare.
3 for a 3/1 with Menace, which is already pretty good. And if you control your commander, each opponent loses 3 life at the beginning of combat. I think this one's pretty solid too. And it's cheaper than the Guardian. And it has Menace, which is pretty good. It means it has pseudo-evasion. What are your thoughts on this one?
It's pretty good. It comes out early again. Menace is good too, especially players that don't have a huge board state.
Maybe you give it +1/+1 death touch.
Maybe you give it +1/+1
They block with 2 creatures and then
yeah.
you lose 2 creatures.
Possibilities are endless.
Alright, let's move on. Acidic Slime, there's not really much to say about Acidic Slime. It's Acidic Slime. Bailoff, Woodcrasher, I don't really think is that good. It's not bad, but...
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Cosign to Dust, I think, is really good in this deck. A lot of times you're going to be destroying 3 things.
I mean, the ability to hit multiple artifacts in chat, which is just good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's good
at instant speed.
Yeah. Exactly.
Stitch Together, in this deck... Stitch Together is just reanimate.
Yeah.
You're almost always going to have Threshold in this deck.
Exactly.
So, really good card. Hunting Wilds, in this stock build, it's a worst Explosive Vegetation. Most times.
The card's good. Like, I think all the ramp...
which there's a lot.
Yeah, they're all good cards. Hunting Wilds in the slide, Explosive Vegetation. I think the value of that just speak for themselves.
And once you start modifying the stock deck, Hunting Wilds just becomes better.
Yeah, if you want to put that kind of...
When you start putting dual lands in. Alright, Death Reap Ritual didn't do much for me at all. I'm sure it can be a good card, especially with your tokens, but I don't know if it's the right card for this deck.
Yeah, I think like it's very situational in this deck to get, and it costs 4, but I like the card. I like the concept of the card.
I feel like like it more in a deck where I'm killing more things.
Yeah, exactly. Or you can be the one trigger and not hoping something here.
Yeah, exactly. Right, and Grim Blackwood can only sack so many creatures.
Yeah.
And Putrefy is just really good removal. There's not really much else to say about that card. Everyone knows Putrefy at this point. Zendikar Incarnate, I don't...
Yeah.
Meh.
4 toughness is going to get blocked. I don't care how big you are.
Even if they give it Death Touch, you're still going to block it.
Great.
You're especially going to block it.
I was going to die anyway. It's so big. You better give it Trample.
Soul Ring, not much to say there. Akum Refuge, it's a dual land that comes into play tapped.
Game 1 life.
Yeah. Savage Twister is good here.
I think someone needs to do a study on the 1 life being gained from these lands.
See how much time it actually saves you?
Yeah, all these people, the 1 land, you gain 1 life from like 3 or 4 of these lands, opposed to someone who loses 3 life from 3 or 4 lands. What's the effect of that opposed to coming into play tap?
I bet you there's someone on Reddit.
We need a scientist out there.
There might be a Reddit post.
A data scientist out there to figure that out.
MTG Salvation,
especially in like a more casual, bigger format. Like maybe getting the life might be better than playing something right away.
What do you think if they make these exact lines, but an opponent loses a life?
That would be amazing.
That'd be pretty cool, though.
Wizards, get on that. I want to make that would be way better than gaining 1 life. I take back everything I said.
I feel like it's the next step. They should just do that. Alright, Savage Twister is pretty good, because we were talking about this earlier. Usually green X spells only hit creatures.
Imagine you die a land coming into play. I'd be so mad.
I would be so salty if I was at 1, someone played a land and killed me.
Yeah, just die. Like,
I'd be pretty salty.
They top dead the land too.
And it's an uncommon. It just comes into play tap and kills you.
Yeah.
I'd be pretty cheesed.
Anyway, sorry for interrupting. Yeah,
I'd be pretty cheesed. Yeah, Savage Twister is pretty good. It hits flyers and non-flyers, which these 2 colors usually do one or the other.
If you can't understand why you need that.
Alright, next, the Carol lands, the bounce lands. I'm not usually a fan of these, but they work really well in this deck. When you play them, you bounce another land, which you can then pitch to your commander. Whatever other shenanigans you want to do with this deck.
Yeah, I mean, that's about it.
Another gain 1 life land. And then we have Blighted Woodlands, which taps for a colorless. But you can pay 3 and a green, sacrifice it to search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, and put into play tapped. Really good for this deck.
Yeah, landfall triggers
all over the place. And you're hitting your colors. You're in a triple color deck. Next we have Myriad Landscape. Enters the battlefield tapped. Taps for a colorless. You can sacrifice to search your library for up to 2 basic land cards that share a land type. Put them onto the battlefield tapped.
This one you don't even have to pay colored mana to access the mana. So
yeah, and less you pay 2 versus 4. It does come into play tapped though.
Yeah.
Another bounce land, and now we have two fetch lands, 2 uncommon fetch lands. They come to play tap, but you can sack them to search for the colors on the card. What do you think of these?
Once again, I think they're good in the deck. More ways you can bring multiple lands in a turn.
And when you want to, like again for landfall triggers and stuff like that.
For this deck, like they really work well. Like you don't have to use them right away, especially because you have so much mana. It's not like I have this, I need it for the mana. You can. Well,
it's like what we were saying, right? With these lands, Blighted Woodland and all these, it's very plausible that Avenger tokens can attack for 4 the next turn.
Yeah.
Just
those ones used for mana themselves, but the other ones, they're not useful for mana unless you crack them. But
of course,
in this deck, I think you sometimes even have the luxury where you can play it.
With the top ones, you'd have to. But yeah.
No, but I mean, like you could even not use it. The turn is free until you have a turn where it's more of effect, especially later on in the game.
Because this deck does ramp. You're not gonna be short on mana very often.
You're not gonna be short on mana, no.
And the last one, commons, more lands. Temple of the False God, and not really much to say about that card. It's so good. And Savage Lands is your tri-land.
Command Tower comes into play tap.
Yeah, basically. That's basically what it is in this deck. Your second command tower when it comes into play tap. And I would go to common where you're going to see a lot of the ramp and fixing. Cultivate is one of the best. How should I describe this? Ramp or search for land card?
Yeah, it's a ramp card, yeah.
It's one of the best ones in EDH. Yeah. We have Explore. Far Wanderings I love in this deck because you don't see it played that often anymore. And again, like we said earlier, you're almost always going to have Threshold in this deck. So you're going to be searching for 3 lands a lot.
I'm a graveyard guy, so I love Far Wanderings.
You're one of the only people that actually play in our playgroup.
Yeah.
And we have Borderland Explorer. It's 2 for a 3/1. When it enters the battlefield, each player may discard a card. Each player will discard a card this way. May search their library for a basic land card, reveal and put into their hand, and shuffle their library.
I'm so I hate giving a man land. It bothers me.
It bothers me a little bit too. They do have to pitch a card.
Yeah.
But if they have no lands, they'll gladly pitch an 8-mana card.
Gladly.
To get a land, right? I don't know. Like, there's better cards in this. Sakura Tribe Elder comes to mind.
Don't give me 1 toughness after I just gave them a land. Give me someone who's doing something. No.
But that's 3 power though, man.
This guy's dying instantly.
So, which leads to my other point. I wish he did something when he died. Because they gave him 1 toughness.
Yeah.
I wish when he died he did something. Let's move on from that guy before I start getting cheese.
Like, he's a scout. Whose side is he scouting for?
Everyone.
Yeah, apparently.
So we have Expedition here, which is one of the cards that you can hold off to get a lot of landfall triggers. So it itself has landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, you put a quest counter on it, and you can remove 3 quest counters from it, and sacrifice it to search your library for up to 2 basic land cards and put them into the battlefield tapped. It's just doing more of what the deck wants to do, giving you control of when your lands enter the battlefield. Next, we move on to Farhaven Elf. When it comes into play, you may search your library for a basic land card and put it into the battlefield tab, then shuffle your library. That's really all it's there for. Grapple with the Past, I think, is really good in this deck. It's an instant, which is really good, and you put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. Then you may return a creature or a land card from your graveyard to your hand. What do you think about this one? It gives you a lot of options.
Yeah. It's a good card. Definitely only costs 2 as well, too.
2 at instant, you can return a creature you want that's already there, or a land you want that's already there, right? Like, the 3 cards you're milling might not matter. You know, it might already have what you want in the yard. And Harrow is just really solid. Again, something else that can
trigger a bunch of landfall. I think you're going to have what you want in the yard.
That's how I feel, too. Yeah. Unless you're really, I'm at 1, I need... This is desperation mode.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're probably going to already have it in the yard.
Or you're looking for a land to draw 2 cards off your command.
Yeah.
Really, it's really early.
You have my Elder, which I think at 3 mana, even at 3 mana, is better than the other.
It speaks for itself.
Than Borderland Explorer. It's just really good. You know, does something when he dies.
Anything Borderland Explorer gives other people that. They can't compare these 2 cards.
You have my Elder is really good. Grizzly Savage, similar to Grapple, not quite the same. Also an instant, you reveal the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a creature or land card from among them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. The key thing to remember with these cards is you don't mind putting certain cards in your graveyard in this deck, especially if they're lands.
Yeah.
Putting lands in your graveyard in this deck makes it better, right? There's multiple cards in the deck that want that to happen anyways. So cards like this are really good. Mm-hmm. Especially a common.
Yeah, that's actually a little surprising.
Yeah. Forge of Heroes, taps for colorless, and you can tap it, choose target commander that enters the battlefield this turn, put a 1/1 counter on it if it's a creature, and a loyalty counter if it's a planeswalker. I mean, it seems fine.
It's fine. I don't know why you can't use it for mana and get the 1/1 counter, but I guess.
At the same time?
Yeah.
Because it's common?
Weren't the old... No, but the old ones, it was like, if you use this land to tap it...
But you had to tap a mana.
To cast your commander.
Yeah, tap a mana.
Did you have to tap a mana?
Yeah, okay. Tap 1 and then tap it.
Okay, I guess, alright.
And then he gave you one of any color that you could use to cast it. Sakura Tribe Elder is just a staple. It's just the OG. Much better than other cards that shall remain nameless. And moving on to more lands, Bazooka Bog is... This is a card that all those strategies we can mention about putting stuff in your yard, they're more useful. This is the card that just blows that all the way up.
Shuts down graveyard.
Yeah, it just blows up a lot of decks. And it's a common. Command Tower is Command Tower. I mean, you're running a triple color deck. You'd be silly not to be playing it.
The best land.
Yeah. Evolving Wilds, again, just another card that controls when your land enters the battlefield.
Yeah, 2 landfill. Fall triggers.
Yep, true. That's true. Baron Moor, you can cycle it if you don't need it. You're almost always going to cycle this card, unless you're really struggling for mana. you're going to cycle this card. Haunted Fengraf. This is actually not a bad card. So it taps for a colorless, and you can pay 3 to sacrifice it to return a creature card at random from your graveyard to your hand. What do you think of that?
It's not a bad card. I think you're sacking the land. You should be able to pick your creature. Personally.
It is a common.
It's a it's a common. I'm just saying, you're sacking a land, and you're paying 3. You're using 4 lands, basically. You're tapping it and sacking it. I mean, you should be able to pick your creature.
The way I look at it is my commander's probably going to put this back into play.
Like I said, in this deck, I understand. Yeah. But.
Alright, next we have Jund Panorama. And it taps for a colorless, or you can pay 1 to sacrifice it to search your library for, of course, a swamp, mountain, or forest, and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Again, more shenanigans. You can get 2 landfall triggers in the same turn with this as well. Jungle Hollow, you gain a life. More cycling lands. Terramorphic is...
6 or so.
Yep. More cycling lands. Warp Landscape, you can sacrifice it to search your library for a basic land card and put it into the battlefield tapped. And shuffle your library. Colony Garden seems fine. Again, it makes a plant. If you just happen to have Avenger, it could be relevant.
I'd rather not come to play tap and get that 0/1.
That's how you feel?
That's how I feel. Like, unless I really need a blocker.
What if someone's attacking you with
I might want the plant, but...
What about late game, man? We don't need the mana, but that plant might save your life.
What happens if you, need that green mana to play Petrify on the creature instead of blocking it with the 0/1.
I don't know, you're probably dead.
Yeah, you might be okay.
And then we have 6 swamps, 5 mountains, and 7 forests in this.
Most important cards in the deck.
Yeah, they're pretty good. Especially with all those search or basic cards in the deck. So, what are your final thoughts on this, Mr. PT?
I think it's a very interesting deck. I think it's well built.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's got good synergy. I think you can play it, and I feel a lot of the cards interact well with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And
absolutely.
I think they did a good job with this in general.
This, I feel, is one of the better put together of the 4. Because some others that I won't mention right now, because we're probably going to do videos on them, I thought would function better than they did. And this functioned really well. Even when the game we played, I drew 5 lands and 2 cards open in hand. I kept it, and it didn't matter. Because once this guy was out, once the Budoka was out, and then this guy was out, all that land just became cards.
I think this guy, in himself, is very strong.
Mm-hmm.
The card draw, like I said, is the amount of card draw that he provides in a deck built around him is strong. The other thing that's slept on is that you play so much lands that recasting him is not that difficult for this deck.
I must have cast him 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, he can be recast. Yeah, so that's another advantage he has. But like I said, he doesn't protect himself. That's one disadvantage of Planeswalkers, that
of course
they require you to protect them. But I think that's the only complaint you can have for this card.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, overall, even though he doesn't protect himself, he goes to 7 loyalty right away. Unless there's some amazing land that you want with the -3.
As you said. Yeah.
7 loyalty is pretty high.
Yeah, exactly. As much as you can ask after 1 turn.
Yeah, so I like this one overall. If you guys have any thoughts on the deck or which ones are your favorite, let us know down below. And are you going to be doing an article on this?
What?
Are you going to be doing an article?
Yeah, we're gonna do an article talking a little bit about what we thought. So you guys can look out for that. It's going to be on manaburn.com.
I'll put the link to his website in the description down below. And as usual, thanks for watching.
Alright guys, have a good one.